I know. It's been a minute.
I bet it did.
Oh, easily.
Yep.
He just.
And I had to just like.
I've been caught in my pocket. Here, I got business.
He's giving me crap because I left my shotgun in the Airbnb we're staying in at Smithsonian.
Oh, really?
Mail it?
No, I just flew back and got it.
Hold the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay.
That was my one for the.
Motion passes. Next is a
2023. You got 2023 out of the way.
Check that one off.
Next item is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? All right. Next is special reports and presentations. Carrie James.
Good evening, Mayor Semino, council members. Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. My name is Greg Dumars. I am the project manager with Kansas Municipal Utilities. KMU is a statewide association representing Kansas cities and other state or other public and not-for-profit agencies involved in the ownership and operation of municipal utilities. Formed in 1928, KMU provides assistance, information, and support to members with regard to legislative and regulatory issues, training and educational programs, and numerous other services towards the advancement of municipal utilities. This evening, the real reason I am here is because it's my pleasure to present Carrie James this evening his certificate for successful completion of the power plant technical program. This is a 2-year educational program that is comprised of 240 hours of instructional training and testing over 8 quarters of learning. Some of the areas, and this is not inclusive, covered in the training are power industry and utilities, math and physics, pumps and valves, properties and materials, combustion theory, heat transfer and fluid flow. It's not as easy to say as it is to type. And along with reciprocating engine operation and maintenance. It is my pleasure this evening to present to Kerry James his power plant operator certification for successful completion of the power plant technical program. And I will read the certificate. This certifies that Kerry James has successfully completed the full course of study and met all the requirements prescribed by the Board of Directors of Kansas Municipal Utilities, is hereby awarded this power plant operator certification as a member of the City of Baldwin City, Kansas, to the level reflected in the Kansas Municipal Utilities seal affixed below on this 18th day of December 2022. We're a little late in getting it to him, but congratulations, Kerry. Great job.
Thank you, Kerry, for all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I already go back to school at 53.
I feel you more than you know.
How was your first day?
Okay, our next item is new business conditional use. Russ, you want to present this?
So we have a conditional use permit that was heard back in planning commission, back in the fall. It was for, to add an like Airbnb, short-term rental. The applicant had been in prior and had a conditional use permit approved for a commercial application. So she was planning, the applicant was planning on building a commercial kitchen like in her backyard. And then from there, she wanted to add another level to be able to do an Airbnb, short-term rental. The planning commission heard, they denied the request 5-0. Their recommendation was for the applicant to come back and get the property rezoned. There's a lot of questions about parking and how that would look, because currently, where the applicant is parking, they're actually parking in the road right of way. But there was just a lot of questions that were kind of unanswered in that regards. Is there any questions I can?
So, yeah, I do, of course. So the planning commission denied based on parking?
They didn't deny it based on parking. Their recommendation was that the property be rezoned
To what?
to a commercial deal, because the applicant already has a commercial kitchen on the property, and if they're doing short-term rentals, for the different fees and stuff that hotels or motels have to abide by in the city, like on the guest tax and different stuff, they felt like she should, being as close as she is to the downtown district, that she should move forward with a rezone.
We don't have transient guest tax.
Yeah, we don't. I guess I'm confused, because to me, it wouldn't fit in commercial. I mean, it fits in more like an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU type of thing, but we don't have an ADU zoning in our zoning code that I'm aware of. So, I'm just curious, I mean,
Yeah,
if I want to put an apartment for my parents over my garage, why would I need to get my house rezoned? Even though I might have got a conditional use permit for use within my garage.
So with the
That's right.
conditional use permits, like, if they're filing for like an Airbnb or something like that, they would have to go through, and get a conditional use permit according to how it's set up. That's kind of been our procedure in the past, for applications that were turned in.
Yeah, and that's-
Prior to me being here.
I guess that's my point on this is maybe where my confusion is coming is because typically Baldwin has always handled all these where it doesn't really fit any type of zoning through a conditional use permit. And now I feel like we're forcing a single family zoning into a commercial zone, or the planning commission is recommending, forcing it into a commercial zone, which is gonna increase their property tax. Their property tax is already gonna go up when they're in a residential zoning area. Just for an
Correct,
apartment.
and some of the thought process is if they're doing short-term rentals, the planning commission talked really in depth about that they should be taxed at a commercial rate, like, let's say like what the lodge is getting charged, as far as their property tax goes, because it doesn't, their deal at the end of the day is that it didn't make it an even playing field, so that anybody could have one of those and not necessarily be paying the property taxes at that rate.
So do all our Airbnbs in town
That's
have,
where I was gonna go next.
I don't think
are
so.
they,
Airbnbs don't go commercial.
I don't think it needs to be an even playing field.
So, I mean, and that's,
You're talking about a
I guess my
25
question-
unit.
I mean, the question was, do we even know who all has Airbnbs in town? Probably not.
probably not, no.
And the ones that we do know, do they have conditional use permits?
I am not, I have no idea.
We don't know.
I do know that we have had some
We've had some
that came and got a conditional use
Is it a
permit.
requirement of the city to do that?
I remember some coming through council, but when I've looked out on Airbnb, there's a lot more out there that have not.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think to do that.
No.
Right.
And I'm not sure, I guess what I'm asking.
The answer is yes, when I clarify.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, a couple of things. Number, if you're gonna do an Airbnb or switch it to multi, whatever, yes, you do need a CUP. We do that. And there have been ones, some have been rejected, some have been accepted as CUPs, and they're doing the Airbnbs.
Your question about
To do Airbnbs flying under the radar, the platform that creates Airbnbs is meant to fly under the radar. They're very difficult to track. And so, no, the answer is, do we know where all of them are? No. They come and go from the website. It's
Yeah.
very difficult to track them.
as far as
Taxes and whatever, zoning really doesn't have to do with your taxes, it's what your property is used for. So it's being used commercially, eventually the county will tax it at a commercial rate, whether it's whatever, to be zoned ag, but if you're doing, commercial activities on the property, they have the right to then tax you at a commercial rate.
If they
So
know
really
it's
the
going
zoning-
on, but if you rezoned to commercial, typically that,
it's a red flag.
It's a red flag, and they would,
Yeah.
yeah, but if you're doing commercial, again, that's up to the county to assess that and determine what they're gonna, tax you at, that's really nothing to do. The city doesn't play any role in that.
but the zoning will kick off the county to come and.
It would, but this may anyway, I don't know how they track that.
So this
That's
would,
assessors.
I will tell you, this would anyways, so, because they track our building permits.
But I still think there's a different property tax rate between residential and commercial.
Well, it's the use.
Well, it's the use, it's not the zoning that determines that.
But isn't it a higher rate? I mean,
It is, right.
if
It
I,
is,
if
right,
I,
so you're always gonna run that risk if you put commercial activity. I mean, it's like if you have,
An empty field.
an empty field, zone residential, you're not tax residential until you build on it.
well,
You're still taxing.
but if you subdivide an empty field that's,
If you subdivide, whether there's gonna start.
and you zone to residential, you're taxed at a higher rate than you were on the ag.
Again, that's, the county does all this.
No, I know, and I'm not trying to debate anybody, I'm trying to
I'm just trying
get
to
clarification.
clarify that's what happened.
on this because I feel like we're trying to pigeonhole something that doesn't necessarily need to be pigeonholed into a rezone.
So did you say they already were operating a commercial kitchen?
So their plan was to construct a commercial kitchen, like a separate building, like an accessory structure.
But are they already operating in the
No, there's
current?
nothing been built,
No, in the current structure or anywhere else?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So they want to build a building away from the home
Correct.
and put a kitchen and stuff in it.
Put a kitchen in the bottom and then an
And a
apartment
bed- and a
up
bedroom
top.
upstairs.
Correct.
So is it kind of a situation where
That's a commercial.
most people would have typically used a conditional use permit, but their desire to have a commercial kitchen says, well, let's just go ahead and zone commercial here type deal? What separates them from everyone else? Because they don't have the kitchen yet, then why are we treating them differently?
Because that changes, so the reason, it's two separate conditional use permits. So when she originally came in, it was just for the commercial kitchen, so commercial, there was nothing about apartment or any of that, so, and then when it came to the apartment, so it's a separate one.
Okay.
So they haven't constructed anything currently because they're waiting to decide, you know, for plans and different stuff, that they would have to have an engineered plans with commercial and everything.
How is what she wants to do any different than the Three Sisters or whatever it's called?
It's a good question.
So that's a great question. So, you know, I think the Three Sisters, they went through the process and it got approved, with the conditional use permit, and that was many years ago, now, from what I'm aware of. They do currently have, like, you know, off-site parking,
And they serve meals?
They did. I don't think they do anymore.
I don't think they do anymore, but,
But I thought when they moved to Airbnb, they had to come back for a conditional use permit at that point. I can't remember. That's from going off of 5 years ago.
yeah, and I don't remember, I wasn't here when they went back to that, so I don't know exactly on that.
So, Russ, I guess, what's the request of the council tonight? Is the applicant requesting to overturn the planning commission's?
I think that's, she's here tonight, so I think, you know, that's her intention.
I don't have any questions at this
I'm
time.
just trying to figure out, you know, obviously I'd like to be consistent here, it might not be possible, but until we learned about the Airbnb piece of that, I remember having a conversation about the commercial kitchen part. Was there gonna be, maybe the planning commission would have come to that commercial zone request anyway? Or did that only come about when they put the Airbnb on top of it?
So when they put the Airbnb on top of that, and then, so, like, we keep adding the conditional uses, and it's like, well, we're kind of like in a way, because
Right, so that's where I've got the problem. Because they added something that everybody else in Airbnb got a conditional use permit on. Because they put it on top of this, whatever it is, that now requires commercial, they were recommending commercial rezone. And to me, if the commercial kitchen didn't require that, the Airbnb shouldn't, even though it's a part of it. I guess that's the consistency thing. You know, it'd be another special use, you know, or conditional use permit. And then I guess, to Glenn's point, if the county assesses commercial activity, they could come in and tax it at a different rate, or how does that work?
That's up, and again, that's up at the county
Yeah,
assessor.
I mean, that's not up to us to
Yeah,
police
there's
that.
no role.
Well, and my other problem with it is, it's one lot, right? It's not, the structure's not gonna be built on a separate lot, and there's not gonna be a lot split.
no, there's no lot split or anything like that.
So now we're gonna make somebody with a house, and then a second structure with a commercial kitchen and an apartment above, zone, which you gotta zone the whole property,
Yeah,
into commercial,
correct.
and they have a single family house that they still live in. So,
That makes sense.
no.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So,
So let's talk about the parking issue. I mean, that's apparently an issue regardless of the zone, or is that a requirement of the commercial zone?
So if they went to the, what is it, CP? So downtown district is, there is no requirement, like, they would be like in CP three. So there is no requirement on parking. That was what they were trying to move towards. Because that was some of the concerns. You know, some of the concerns was, having a true commercial kitchen with an apartment, how that's gonna look, and, you know, they're asking, how's that gonna lay, like, what size is it gonna be? There's just a lot of questions on how it's gonna all fit together, and on that size of the lot, and separations, setbacks, there's just a lot of moving pieces.
I don't see a location on here as to where this is taking place.
So it's actually right out the back here, so where the red barn is,
Right across the street.
it's just right across the street, right there on the
South.
The White House on the corner?
Yeah.
It's not the White, I don't, no, it's not the White House. The White House is over here. It's the one directly south.
It's an old.
It's on the south,
Only the barn is between us and them.
the southeast corner of that intersection.
Yeah. I think it's like a green or.
But if I remember right, this kitchen, which really shouldn't even be discussed in my opinion tonight, because the conditional use permit for that kitchen is already approved.
That has been correct.
Nobody's eating in it. It's a catering kitchen. So I'm going back to the part, I'm kind of parlaying off of Scott's comment regarding the parking. Is there, we allowed a commercial kitchen in this area, and the concern is adding essentially one bedroom, right?
That's to be determined because we don't have any plans. So I can't speak on that without having plans.
Well, and we'll hear from the applicant here, but my assumption at this point is a one apartment type of thing, so
Correct.
very little traffic, but if she did an addition, or they did an addition onto their house with one bedroom, are we gonna then go and require more parking?
Are we gonna require what?
More parking?
I know.
And this isn't directed at you, I'm
know.
talking out
I know.
loud.
And I get what you're saying, because there's like so many like what ifs, and it's a very gray area, and the code doesn't necessarily spell it out like it should, like, so that's the hard part when you start looking at this, and then, so, and that's kind of how the meeting went with the planning commission members. We got out the code book, and like we're going through it, and they're asking questions like, okay, let's, what does this say? But it's all of like how you interpret it, and how Julie interprets it, how Jerry interprets it, could be totally different. And they both can be right, you know? So I,
It's, everybody on this part of town parks in the easement. So, I have 5 cars in my easement right now. Like, it's, if we're gonna start regulating that, I mean. What? I got my dead Subaru.
That's a good point. I mean,
Something got us a
but that's a great point.
got a
We
resident.
start enforcing that, or making a requirement, or
Do they have to have a
We don't start
separate
now.
meter for their business? Do they have to have a separate electricity deal for the meter? Do they pay a higher fee for services than normal would because of our business? Well, what's all that entail?
so, well, and that's a great question, because, one, the probably the service, they're gonna have to probably have a new tap for, you know, sewer, I doubt that the old one, I mean, that's, there's so many questions I have without going, you know, getting plans and whatnot, you know.
But that's part of the building.
But that's
Inspection process.
that's a whole separate issue, and
It's not a separate issue.
Well-
It all falls in if it was agreed to.
yeah, like it's, because, see, and that's the thing with the commercial kitchen, or commercial, and your water, your electric, it's, we have 9 or 12 different rates on different stuff, from from that one meeting that I remember,
They would have to have it.
they would have to have a separate service, more than likely,
You said,
just because of, I think there's just a 200 amp service currently there for servicing the house. They would have to have another 200 amp service servicing that commercial kitchen as well as that apartment. I mean, and I don't know that it wouldn't have to be, it kind of depends on the equipment that they're also gonna put in that building for the commercial kitchen,
right?
on if they would have to go to the 400 amp service. A lot of, more than likely, they probably would have to jump to a 400 amp service, to be able to do that.
But more than likely,
So more than likely, they're probably gonna have to go separate.
That answers my question, thank you.
Yeah.
So when they were talking about this in planning, what if somebody was coming and asking for an ADU?
I mean, what?
It's called an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, for their parents. Would that have kicked this all off? If they wanted to add if they didn't mention having an Airbnb?
So that was, I will say that was never brought up, so I don't know, I can't really speak for what, the way they would look at that. I mean, that brings a great point up. I mean, let's just say you have, let's say I have a house and I got enough room on the lot and let's say my son is disabled and I want him, you know, and he can't, you know, live off on his own, but he at least have some independence with that. So that brings up a great question, because I know the county will allow that. But I'm not for sure, it's not really spelled out in there.
ADUs across the nation are becoming more and more popular because of the housing crisis that we're in.
Correct, yes,
So,
yes.
But isn't that different though? I mean, if you're building on to where your parents can live or your child can live as opposed to
So the,
making money off of somebody renting that place.
so the, like,
It could be the same house with a connection.
so the requirements are no different. Like, they still have to meet all the building requirements and, you know. The problem the problem sometimes is that what's gonna happen when it's sold, you know? I mean, sometimes with, the thing about, I think that one of the reasons they recommend the rezone was that if she were to sell her property, then somebody can come in and they can do what she was doing. But if she doesn't do the rezone, when she sells the property, the conditional use permit is voided at that time. And whoever would purchase the property would have to come back, go through planning commission to get that back. Now, that's not to say that it wouldn't be approved since it was already approved, but as years go by and things happen, you know, there's always.
The counter to that, though, is if we force the rezone, it's for the whole property. It's now commercial. She sells, whoever comes in, it's now commercial. They can do whatever they want there.
they can bulldoze everything. put up
Whatever
mechanical.
allowed in the commercial.
I don't understand it that way. I thought I understood it once they came in, it was null and void.
The conditional use,
The conditional
The
use.
rezoning, they can.
but if you
Well,
rezone
you're
it,
talking zoning.
yeah, if we go with what the
Same, yes, yes.
planning commission recommended, it'd be all rezoned as commercial.
No.
And then if they sold and someone could come in and and we went through the list of what's commercial one or whatever, they put whatever they want in there. It's no longer residential.
Mhm.
And we would lose those rooftops and lose that, you know, so that's the other issue of going commercial on the zone.
Correct, yeah, I mean, it's on any rezone,
Yeah,
we
it's-
run into that.
It's forever until the buyer or the owner wants to do something else,
Correct.
which is not a good idea
No.
in a residential area.
Mhm.
The conditional use allows you then to make a second decision. Again, if things
Yes.
change, you could then come back and say, no, we think we should rezone this commercial.
Yeah.
Or, no, we'll give you special, conditional use, or no, you don't get one.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
So
Yeah.
there's good and bad to like both ways when we weigh it out and. So, I mean, like I struggle with it, you know, I mean, not that I'm presenting what the planning
Right.
commission had decided, not, you know, this is not, you know,
Yep, you get it.
so.
Any other questions for Russ? Would the applicant like to speak to the
Yes,
council?
please.
Okay, step on
Thanks,
to
Russ.
the podium. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Raven Naramore, and I live at 902 7th Street. As you guys know, it's just the closest house to where we are right now. And
Did you drive here?
I did not. I don't have to drive anywhere downtown. And I used to rent kitchen space at Antiques on the Prairie. There was a commercial kitchen there, and I did that until the building sold. And during COVID, my entire business basically vanished, and so we were trying to just figure out, you know, what we would do to be legal within the state. And so we decided on the commercial kitchen, putting it in the backyard. We have a double lot, we don't have a garage, and so there's plenty of space in our yard for a building, which would be about 20 by 16. And I went to my architect, and when we were talking about, after I got the first conditional use permit, he suggested, you know, you could help pay this off by having a rental unit on top. And I was like, oh God, that's a great idea. And I talked to Glenn, and he said, yes, you'll, you know, do a second conditional use permit, so that you would be within, because I want to be within the bounds of what's allowed. And so I did that, and then I was unable to attend that meeting because it took 2 months before I was put on the meeting minutes, and I was already out of town at the time. And so I unfortunately wasn't present to argue my case. And then I asked why it had been denied, and by that time, Stu had been, was now in the position that Russ was in. And he sat down with me and we went over like Article 26 of the Planning Commission codes. And he encouraged me to come to you and to talk to you because I was very uncomfortable with rezoning the property commercial because I live in a neighborhood and I don't want it to be anything else. Our house was built in like 1870 something. It's a beautiful old house, and I don't want somebody to bulldoze it down and put, you know, whatever corner store kind of thing they there. I have a very small business. It's just me who works there. We have 2 grown children. We have a third who will graduate in another year. So we have kids coming back and forward. And we just thought that putting an apartment up there would be helpful for a variety of reasons. Also, it would be nice to be able to use it to make a little money on the side to help pay for the kitchen of it in itself. And so that is why I've requested this meeting, and it really, because I don't want the property to be zoned commercial. And if it's the judgment of the group that, you know, no, you can't have the Airbnb upstairs, you know, I get it. I'm not going to petition to have it rezoned commercial. I would just, you know, I'm allowed to have a kitchen, and that's fine. And maybe we would even put the apartment up there and use it for our own use. But that was why I'm here today. Did you guys have any questions? In our parking, we park in, I guess, what is called the easement,
Yeah.
which I didn't realize was not,
It's allowed.
oh, okay.
It's allowed.
And
It's not a no park.
I'm the first violator, right?
do I have an alley? I do.
And
Yes.
you have a double lot,
We do have double
do
lot.
you have a place in the back for parking?
We are not on the alley, and so I don't have a space. There's an alley, or I'm sorry, so the alley is next, my neighbor's house, runs by her. But there isn't an alley in our block.
Okay.
Is this just gonna be a 1-bedroom apartment?
Yeah, it would be a studio, actually. Well, it's only like a 20 by
Only
16
320
space.
square
Yeah.
feet.
There'd be a bathroom, and then it'd just basically be an open floor plan
Right.
from that. And I did go through all of the, I think there are,
Negates the parking issue.
Yeah, and we have lots of parking. Our house used to be an apartment, so it used to be 3 apartments, and so there was a lot of parking because of that. My husband joined the house all into one unit, and so, and once all of our children are gone, we will have more parking, so,
And it's still zoned single family, right?
it is,
Okay,
yeah,
just wanted to clarify that.
So-
yeah.
So, to be repeated, what are you asking for?
I would like to have the second conditional use permit approved for the Airbnb apartment on top of the commercial
So the
kitchen.
Airbnb is all you're after?
The conditional use.
She's already got the other things.
I was given
We
the,
got the kitchen.
We've already approved the cup for the kitchen.
And that has already been approved?
Yes.
yeah, last
So-
April.
So what's being rejected here is the combination of 2 conditional use now needs to be commercial. That's really what they proposed. Because separately, they're fine. She's already got the commercial kitchen conditional use, and there's conditional uses for Airbnbs all over the place.
I mean, that shouldn't be a deterrent for.
Unless there's a good
You're not-
reason.
But the good reason will always be determined in the conditional part of the conditional use permit. It's conditional every time. It's, there are-
Yeah,
there-
I don't know how you could have a conditional use for one Airbnb and not another. If that's the use,
But I'm
That's
saying,
the use.
I think what may have spooked some people, and I'm not speaking for anybody, but for me, it seems like, based on what's been presented to us, is that it's making people uncomfortable that there are 2 conditional use
Ah.
permits. You know, whereas everyone else usually has 1.
That's where I'm at too.
Right. Which,
I don't understand the
Yeah, I don't either.
uncomfortableness, but
I don't
Right,
either.
yeah.
If
I
the
don't
house,
either.
if the house was used for an Airbnb and she got a conditional use permit, it'd still be 2 CUPs.
I don't get it either.
On the same
and I'm
property.
more uncomfortable with zoning commercial.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
100%.
Any questions for that? I don't wanna make her stand.
No, I mean, if it is the stacking of the conditional use permits that is the issue, you know, I thought when I was reevaluating this, if it was just a B and B, which they do have commercial kitchens, so you have a commercial kitchen and then a lodging unit, and then it could just be one thing, if that made any difference.
It doesn't.
It
not
doesn't,
me.
for me, no.
Okay.
To me,
Okay.
that's just making our citizens go through more work for the
Take
same.
Airbnb and put them in your house, go ahead with your kitchen. Or get it upstairs.
Well, my husband's against that idea.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you for hearing me.
Yeah.
Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Nope. Council discussion? I'll give my 2 cents. I think it's pretty clear. This is beyond ridiculous. Somebody couldn't do this. I mean,
Sorry, speak up.
this is ridiculous to me that we wouldn't allow somebody to do this when we've already approved a commercial kitchen on the property with a single-family house that could, quite frankly, they could move out and just make it an Airbnb already on the same property.
So what she's gonna do is build a kitchen with an attic above it
Yeah.
and gonna have a bedroom in it.
Pretty much. Yep.
I can buy that.
320 square feet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a ton of room, so it's not like it's gonna add a lot of parking. And I agree with what Scott said. I mean,
With its
Turn-
own entrance.
with its own interest, yeah. Turning it into rezoning commercial is just, I agree with the applicant. There's no way I would ever do that.
No.
We went through that with the house, right next to Quick Shop that, was used for a flower shop. It was rezoned commercial. It sold. They had to come back for a rezone for residential. I mean,
For Casey's, you mean?
the old Quick Shop, old house next to
The
the
old
old Quick
quick
Shop.
shop? Oh, okay.
Right to the south of it.
Yeah.
There's their house right there.
Yeah, just based on what Russ said, I don't understand the rationale with the combined conditional use. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not getting it, but
That's why I keep saying, I think, you know, maybe there was the fear of like maybe a slippery slope, but there shouldn't be, because you have a say in it at every step of the
single
way.
time.
Exactly.
Right.
The
So
only
you're setting-
slippery
you're setting
slope I would be
precedents.
worried
You don't
about
have
is if it
trouble
were
with
zone
you?
commercial and
Correct.
was sold.
I'm not
That's-
having trouble with
that's
the
a-
planning
That's the
commission.
slippery
Yeah.
slope that's
Now
the
it's
issue.
KFC.
Right.
Yeah, they had trouble with having 2 of those on the same
Couldn't
property.
this be turned into one?
Mm-mm.
It has to be 2.
I think it'd be better to be two, because if something happens to the
Two different
commercial
uses, yeah.
kitchen and they change that use, then it's easier to change it. I mean, I'm seeing it still as two different units, apartment and a commercial kitchen. And if they wanted to turn that into storage later versus a commercial kitchen, they could rip out that, come back for a conditional use permit, say, we just want to make this one single storage unit. And at least, you know, the city has a say kind of in that, so it doesn't balloon into something larger, where, like Scott alluded to when talking to Russ, he's in a commercial, and all bets are off in a residential area. I mean, it could be turned into a restaurant
Yeah.
or a bar. I mean,
If I were a neighbor, I'd have a big issue with that.
so.
We vote?
Yep.
I move to approve the conditional use permit for the property located at 902 7th Street.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the annual appointments. So I think basically we're not changing any, but I'll list them off. Treasurer has been Glenn for quite a few years now. I think he's keeping track of that good. Judge Shay Downing, you all met her last year. I had to switch up of Dakota and Blake. Attorney General, I'm appointing Dakota Loomis. City Clerk Amra. Police Chief Mike Patrick.
I'm gonna tell Chris to come up right now.
Yeah, he got promoted to Attorney General.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Oh, you've been in law school.
Did I say Attorney General? Sorry, City Attorney. City Attorney.
Heck of a promotion. You are now.
I don't want that.
You want that.
Fire Chief Terry Baker. Is there any questions or comments to those?
There was a citizen that sent in they couldn't be here, they sent in something about
Right,
what the qualifications are.
certification,
for the
yeah,
fire chief.
qualification.
I'd have to ask Terry, because I mean, even our judge doesn't have, you can appoint a citizen to be a judge. You don't have to be an attorney to be a judge, so.
Well, I just
it's
read
an-
it right before I
It got set right before the meeting,
What was it you read, Julie?
It sounds like a disgruntled.
So I guess the question was, does the city, I guess it's the city call, require any certifications at all for specifically the fire chief position, but I assume it would be others as well. I mean, do we have certification requirements for those roles? Was the question.
Well, we have certification. Terry, you might have to come up and say what certification requirements we have for firefighters.
Everybody got an
Yeah.
email. Everybody got an email.
I think certification.
You just have, I didn't have an answer to the question, so I'm asking it. So
It was like state and national certification
Yeah.
and stuff, yeah.
Well, we go by our bylaws. Our bylaws were written way before me. A firefighter on Baldwin City Fire can come, no qualifications. They can get qualified while they're here. My captain Tim, when he started, guys Fire 1, Fire 2, EMT, but we do not actually require people to get certified, but they do have to hit so many trainings a month. We go to training at Lawrence, we go to training with other departments. 'Cause a lot of people don't have the time or can go take off to go to Johnson County to get their qualifications or whatever. So that's why in our bylaws, it reads that way, because, you know, not everybody can just, because everybody's a volunteer. Not everybody can just drop their job and go. Everybody has to get certified in SCBA, air packs. Everybody has to get certified in first aid, auto pulse, AD, all this, CPR, for medicals. That's a minimum requirement, so they can go to a medical. And that's okay with Lawrence Fire, who we run under. As long as they have that, they do not overstep their bounds with what they're qualified to do. We determine, Tim especially, my captain will determine if somebody is ready to go into a working house fire. I know guys have been doing this for 25, 30 years, never got their Fire 1, Fire 2, but they do the steps for it, they just won't actually ever be able to quit and go to a class and stuff like that.
So
It's an email.
I take it there's no certification requirements in the bylaws for the chief position? Okay.
Years of service.
Years of service.
So that's the one requirement?
Yeah, there's a 5-year mark that you have to meet before you're qualified to be appointed as a chief. You have to be on the department for 5 years.
Right.
Okay.
So,
All right. Thanks, Terry.
thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
The only inference is, do we think we should have, and apparently, doesn't seem like it's been a problem.
No,
No.
it's disgruntled. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Can I just move that we accept all appointments? I move we accept all appointments.
Second.
Been moved and second, all in favor say aye.
I,
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next is our annual appointments for city depositories. That's all the 3 local banks we have. We always appoint them as our local so that we can bid out our funds as we have them available to bid between the 3. Is there any questions or anything on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve all 3 city depositories.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item is the annual city committee appointments. I'm not gonna list them all off. Essentially, I'm just gonna leave everybody in their same committees as you guys have been serving for continuity purposes. Seems like everybody's been working pretty good.
That's very happy.
Everybody's happy?
Yep.
I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know about that either.
it's pretty open-ended.
Knees buckled a little bit on that one. It was a good one.
All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to maintain all current city committee appointments.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, council committee reports, budget and finance. Scott.
Did not have a meeting since the last council meeting. Next one will be Friday, this Friday. Is that the 13th?
Yes.
7:45 a.m., second floor, City Hall.
Community development, Corey.
Same, we have not met since, had a long break there. Next meeting is the 23rd, second floor, City Hall, 4 o'clock.
Public safety, Susan.
We met, we reviewed the fees involving dogs running at large. We looked at a comparison to other nearby cities, and we found that we're pretty in line with the other cities, especially in regards to dating. So we don't recommend any changes in fees at this time. And then Chief gave a update on the Tesla on the 16th. It's going to get outfitted. So moving right along on that. That's all we have.
Next meeting.
Come back to it.
Pass. Parks utilities, Jude.
We have not met either, and our next meeting is this Thursday, the 12th at 9 o'clock.
Strategic planning, Scott.
Yeah, we did.
Question for
Yep.
that.
Yes.
If I look in here, it says 10 o'clock.
Well, that in there is wrong.
You can't get more black and white than that, right? Do you have a follow-up?
Gentlemen's Republic.
Wow.
It's always at 9.
Strategic planning, Scott.
Yeah, we did have a meeting, and the committee took the output from the work session we had from the department heads and all the conversation. And what we did is we put that into kind of the first pass of where we're at from a focus area, performance area, and performance indicators. And it's in your packet. You can see how we've done it now. What we remaining effort is what are actually those performance indicators going to be, and then what are the strategies? That's the hard part around how we're going to go impact that. So what we have in your packet is what we've got to at this point and what we plan to use in the school district city council meeting on Thursday. And then the plan, we don't have another meeting scheduled yet, kind of waiting to find out when Casey's back out of town.
That's right.
We get a lot more done, so just let us know.
Uh-huh.
We got a lot done the last meeting,
Yeah.
just saying.
About time.
So, you know, the go forward plan, I know. The plan is to try to continue to move down, you know, work with the department heads and figure out what those performance indicators are gonna be, whether it's a reporting structure. And then probably the heavy lift is gonna be the surveys. As you see in there, what we all talked about, there's gonna be a lot of surveying going on as far as how the citizens think we're doing in those areas. And we gotta figure out how we're gonna go do that. So I think the committee is gonna try to reach out and bring some options back to the council and get a plan for surveys, frequency, and who's gonna do it, et cetera, going forward. So we'll get that after the output of this next joint meeting. We'll schedule another meeting for the committee and we'll start that process. And bring it back to council in multiple iterations, so. And thanks to Lynn for putting it in a readable format.
It's nice.
Yeah, because what I have is not usable. So thank you. for
Repeat that.
Thank you, Lynn.
City administrator, staff comments? Anything?
I just want to update the new community center will be bid out, officially hit the bidding process tomorrow.
Okay.
Jay promised January, so we're doing it.
The only comment I have is, so on the work session, I spoke to the school district last week. We'll be at the Performing Arts Center. We'll be structured just like a normal council meeting, except we'll probably all be sitting on one side of the stage. They'll be on the other, kind of in a U, I think. We have to call each meeting to order to abide by the rules and everything. And then I was hoping, what I'm kind of hoping, talking to the president of the school board, is that essentially we could kind of give them a update on, in kind of a high-level view of what we're looking at, listen to what their high-level view is, and then just see where, if any, we can work together with them on where we're not either pushing against each other or, you know, so where kind of the strategic plans come together a little bit.
Make sure our goals are in alignment, figure out where they're not,
Yeah.
if they are.
So I'll probably, when I call it to order, I'll probably just kick it off to your guys' committee to
Yeah.
give that.
I think we'll go through that. It's very quick. We can walk through and really what they're gonna be interested in, those, you know, focus areas and the performance areas. This is where the council is gonna be focused on through the process, so it shouldn't be an issue.
I just wanted to give you guys all, that is at 7 o'clock, Thursday evening. So
7 o'clock, when?
Thursday evening at the Performing
Thursday
Arts,
At the where?
Performing Arts Center,
Where's that at?
connected to the junior high.
And high school. Big building.
With the
The
fancy
tornado
lights.
shelter.
With the fancy lights.
I'll have to go
Just
look.
drive towards the light, Jerry. On I.
I did, and I was blessed.
All right.
If you have any problems, give me a call. I'll give you a ride.
I'll find it.
I know.
Corey can load the scooter up in the back of the truck. You can ride on it.
They'll run, I started.
All right, we do need an executive session tonight for contract, for a contract,
Attorney-client,
attorney-client privilege. So I will need a motion.
How long do we need?
we're asking for 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
And here's the list of,
Who
Persons.
needs to be included, Glenn?
Myself and Jeff and Neil Daney from KMEA.
And our city attorney?
And I said, well, yes.
Kinda has to be there.
It's easier. Attorney General.
yeah.
I bet it comes with more pay.
I'm pretty sure that,
Might be more headaches, but it's gonna be more pay.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Come on, you got this.
all right, I'll do it. I move that the city council recess into executive session with, Glenn, can you give us the names?
Yeah.
Of the, yeah, I got that.
Okay, yeah. Neil Daney here from KMEA.
Neil Daney.
Jeff Winkler.
Jeff Winkler, then Rodden, city administrator, and our attorney general. Dakota Loomis.
You know what, I could have came up with way worse of a
For
name.
20 minutes, so we'll be back
So
here
it's
at
7:50, we'll be back here at 8:10.
8:10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Leave my motion hanging there.
At least they won.
Yeah. Should've put 5 on them.
I'm looking good at the half.
Call the meeting back to order at 8:10. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn with Scott.
I second.
I moved it, we adjourned.
Scott not present. It's been moved and seconded. Scott is not present. Please note that in the, during the
I can
motion.
say
I'm gonna
aye.
vote present like they do in the House. I'm present.
They don't vote in the
Jerry.
house.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. We're